Hello fellow makeup lovers, how are you guys doing today? I am super excited for this video because we're going to be playing with a new palette that I have been wanting to try for so long, and that is the Dragon Prism 2 palette from Enchanted Lustre Cosmetics. I think this is one of the most beautiful palettes I've ever seen. It is all shimmers and it is absolutely stunning. I mean, I don't even have words. I feel like I could just sit here and stare at it all day. These look so beautiful. Every single shade in this palette is right up my alley. This palette was sent to me in PR sometime around March, and unfortunately the first package got lost in the mail, and then the second one got sent to my old address, so it took a while to finally get to me, but I'm so happy that it's here. Let's go ahead and jump on in. We're gonna do some swatches and then a look using this palette, and I'll probably pull in some other things since this is all shimmers. If you're not familiar with Enchanted Lustre Cosmetics, they are an Australian indie brand and they do so many different beautiful duochrome and multichrome shadows that are all handmade. I will say, I just feel like I have to warn you, this palette is quite pricey. I think it's 130 Australian dollars, which is like somewhere around like 100 US dollars. That's just like a super rough estimation. But I know that these type of shadows are more expensive to make, and they do sell every single shadow in here individually for $15.50 Australian dollars each. So you can just buy a few if those are the ones you like. It's considered a better value to get all of them at once when you break down how much they cost individually, but it is definitely a pricey palette. So let's go ahead and do some swatches. I have a picture pulled up with all the names because the names aren't on the palettes, but I believe now when you purchase them, you can say if you want them to write the names on the palettes, but I personally prefer it without written names because I think it just looks a little bit neater. But the palette is also sold out right now, and I think it's restocking next month. But I'll make sure to leave any details I can find in the description box. So let's just go ahead and start. First, we have a deeper purple metallic, which is called Dark Prism. And then we have Mind Prism, which is like a blue-purple duochrome from what I can see, but that one is super shifty, very, very beautiful. And then we have Terra Prism, which looks like it goes between like red and green. I love shades like that. Okay, so the formula is definitely a little bit more chunky to the touch, but look how beautiful those are. So there's the first three shades. Okay, I'm feeling like I'm definitely gonna need a glitter glue for these. In the past, I felt with their Prism shadows that they are a little bit, like there's a variety of finishes. Sometimes they're more smooth, sometimes they're more metallic, sometimes they're more flaky. It depends on each individual shade, but those look really pretty. They just look a little bit messy. Okay, next we have a yellowy greeny shade called Flare Prism. I love colors like that. It's one of my favorite types of shades. And then we have Sonic Prism, which looks to be like a really chunky teal. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's stunning. And then next is Cosmo Prism, which is another purple. This one again is very chunky, but it's a little bit brighter. Just feel like I need to do up close. Oh man, that shade is so pretty. Okay, next we have Dream Prism, which I'm so excited for this shade. Okay, it is super chunky, but it's like a purple pinky. Okay. Okay, that is super, super chunky. Like, I can't even smoothen it out. So, not so sure about the texture of that one. Then we have Charmed Prism, which is a beautiful, lighter kind of pinky, purple, blue duochrome. A little bit more flaky, but not quite as much. And then, does that say Crond? No, Chrono Prism, which is another greeny yellow shade, but this one is a lot more smooth. That one feels a little bit more creamy to the touch, which I really like the texture of that formula. So we've got the super chunky one, which I don't know how to feel about that. That looks a little bit too chunky for me. That one would be beautiful on the inner corner. And then this shade, I love the formula of that one. Okay, next we have Toxic Prism, which this one again feels a little bit more creamy, and it's kind of like a yellow green, but a little bit more muted. We have Aqua Prism, which the coloring on this one is stunning. It's like a teal to purple shift. And then Gravity Prism is another light white shade, and that one seems to have like a pink to green shift. Oh yeah, that one's really pretty. Okay, next we have Power Prism, which is another light shade, but this one has like a pinky orange shift to it, and that one's a little bit more chunky. We have Light Prism, which that one feels a little bit drier and smoother at the same time, and it has more of a bright green shift to it. And then the last one is called Crystal Prism, and that one, oh, that's interesting. That one's like a satin. That one's a lot more powdery. I mean, it has a cool shift to it, but the texture is very like minimal and lackluster compared to everything else going on in this palette. Okay. So there is the entire palette swatched. I would say that I don't know just from swatches alone if this is going to be worth the price, because there's so many different formulas in here and so many different textures, just the way they feel. So I mean, I'm gonna have to try this out a lot to be able to say how I like all the different formulas. It'll be hard to base an opinion off of throwing one shade on my lid, because there's some that are more creamy, some that are more dry, some that are more flaky, some that are more metallic. It's a little bit all over the place, so I think I'd probably recommend, if you were interested in these and just purchasing the singles for the ones that you like the most, I would say from first impression, this shade right here is the best texture. I really like that one. I like this one as well too. And then this chunky one is just super confusing. I kind of want to use it just because I'm so curious about it, but also I already did my face makeup today and I have a feeling that one's going to be a hot mess. Okay, so I think I'm going to go ahead and use this shade right here today, but I'm going to start off with some mattes from another palette. I already primed my eyes using my Crow and Pebble eyeshadow primer in the shade Parchment, so I'm just going to use my Cindy Grace Enduring Love palette for the mattes, and I'm going to start off, I think, with this shade right here called Cherish. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that into my crease as my transition shade. I'm also going to go ahead and just throw that shade along my lower lash line as well. And dip into the shade Robert. A little bit of that on my outer V just to deepen this eye look up. And then I'm just going to go back with my original brush and make sure that's all blended and soft. Alright, now for my lid, I'm going to start off with my NYX Glitter Primer. There's a little bit of that all over the lid. Okay, now to go into the Dragon Prism palette. Super excited to see how this works. I'm going to start off with that shade that I showed you guys before. It's picking up super well on my brush, although I am using the same brush that I used for the glitter glue. And then I'm just going to pack that on. Ooh, that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Okay, so I'm trying to decide what to do for the inner corner, and I kind of want to try the shade that was less impressive just out of curiosity. Popping it on the inner corner. I mean, like I said, it's more of a soft texture, but the shade on that one is still really cool. Kind of wrapping that around my inner corner onto the lower lash line. So I'm going to finish up this eye look with some liner, some mascara, and I'll be right back. Okay, so for highlighter today, I'm going to go back into the Enduring Love palette, and I'm going to take this pink shade right here, which is called Romeo. I love using that one as a highlight. Just going to pop it on the tops of my cheekbones. And then for lips, I'm going to use my Lethal Cosmetics lipstick in the shade Rome. Alright guys, so this is the finished look, and I have to say I feel a little bit anxious about giving my thoughts on this palette so far, just because it is such a pricey palette, but I'm just going to tell you how I'm feeling, and I will definitely review it more in depth in the future. As for today, I can say that I do really like the eye look. I think it turned out super pretty. The shade all over the lid, the texture is everything to me. I love shadows like that, and I got barely any fallout when I used a glitter primer. So I'm really, really curious to use a bunch more of these shades on my lid and see how they go and see how this wears throughout the day and all of that. But so far, I can say that I did like this eye look. But like I said, it's just so expensive. I can't say if it's worth it yet. I would love to know if you've tried Enchanted Lustre Cosmetics in the past. I actually did purchase their original Dragon Prism palette. I think it's the most expensive indie palette I've ever purchased, and I definitely like the version 2 more. This one's definitely more intense overall, and just the shades are my vibes. So I'm really, really grateful to have gotten this in PR. are. But that's everything for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.